righty. Hi, thanks for having me on. This is Ray Kaderli, and I'm currently serving as the president of the U.S. Hemp Building Association. Many folks have heard about hempcrete, hemp lime, kind of an idea of what it is. Maybe it was the lure because it was, something done with hemp and it's fluffy marijuana concrete or whatnot. Hempcrete is a inaccurate name because the main thing that hemp lime or hempcrete is insulation. The trade association advocates for all things utilizing industrial hemp methods and materials in industrial hemp being a building material. Now, foremost among that is the hemp lime application. There are a few other wood replacements. There are a few other fiber bat insulation replacements that are in the market. The largest volume potential volume is going into the hemp lime scenario. And what that is taking the woody part of the plant that's usually the byproduct of removing the fiber and because it has a lot of air pockets in the plant fiber, because it grows so tall so fast, that makes for good insulation when it's mixed with lime and water, and then it rehardens back into a formable insulation that can go around a structure. And so that's where in the walls and the ceilings and the floors of homes, it can be a nice vapor open, which some people call breathable, but that vapor open is the more accurate term, but it's a healthy home. And so there's a lot of motivating factors that have brought people to this as a building material. There's the environmental stewardship from the farming and agronomy aspect to it, to sequestering carbon in the built space, to lower operating costs when you operate a home or a commercial building. And then, so all of those things under the environmental stewardship are a primary motivating factor. Other primary motivating factors are that it is a very healthy built environment. Many people have a reaction, an unfavorable reaction to a lot of the synthetic building materials that are out there that are made with either a petroleum byproduct or some sort of polymer or some sort of this and that. And there's the sick home syndrome. A lot of those really don't allow moisture to migrate like it should. And then you have where pockets of moisture build. Moisture is the enemy of most built spaces. And then you have mold that can accumulate. Well, the alkalinity in hemp lime is such to where it dramatically retards the growth of mold, if at all, allowing it. And so it's one of those things to where it's just got a lot of benefits stacked in its favor, as far as a quality construction material. Many areas are fire prone. This basically petrifies in place, and it's about like trying to set a stone on fire. So there's a lot of attributes, there's a lot of motivating factors. Some of the design features of it are, it is moldable in before you it hardens in place, so you can have some really dramatic architectural features. So the design community is very favorable to it as well. And so myself, my own motivating factors as a real estate broker and investor were its quality and longevity, as well as its functionality. And both of those things, the longevity and the functionality that comes with efficiency, those are money in my pocket each and every month that I own a property that I build utilizing this building material. So whether it's health, whether it's environmental stewardship, whether it's just quality materials and profitability, it checks all the check boxes. And so now the Trade Association of the U.S. Hemp Building Association has done the legwork in getting this into codes. Now, it's a very viable material. The crop is coming on. The agricultural community has done its job bringing this into where it is positioned to be a large scale industrial crop, very similar to corn, cotton, wheat, soy, all of those major crops that go into a rotation. It's well positioned to do that with the agronomy efforts that go into farming it. So now, as this matures, this gettable get as far as a new building material. And I like to joke with folks that it's like we just discovered trees, and then now we're figuring out what to do with all the wood. And so it's something that is coming into the marketplace in a large volume, opening up large opportunities. And what I'm very excited about with what you guys at Seed Media are doing is education, and information is one of the major roles that needs to be played in the industry to mature to the next level, to where it's not just a novelty thing to click on as you're scrolling through social media, but it's something to where it can really be something that people consider when they're building a home, and then when they're advancing a professional career in the design space, whether it's architect or engineer, a designer, or in the fulfillment side, whether they're a builder, contractor, subcontractor, in those regards, and the supply chain as well. Those are the next steps to gain the recognition, realize what it is, and then just take the next steps to utilize it. And so as those things mature, it'll go on a pathway to production to where it can be mainstream instead of a lot of the one-off projects, both very grand and very small, have been done in the United States. And there's a lot to draw from, but now the groundwork is set and we're excited and we're looking forward to momentum building forward. I like to, introduce it as not as a silver bullet, but as a really good bullet. The you know, what is the housing crisis? How do you define the housing crisis? Is it from the viewpoint of, somebody who can't buy a house affordably? Well, that's one element of it. Well, how about the people who are selling their house and then they're on the plus side of it. So there's a lot of different layers to housing. As a real estate broker that's gone through several focuses in my career, from single family residential, just traditional real estate, to investing, to fix and flip, to new home construction for investment, to syndication and fund creation. There's a lot of layers to this. And I think one of the problems is that it's the difference between things being good and too good, and then everybody needing a home. But when some things are too good, now we're priced out of it. Those are ebbs and flows that I think will correct themselves. And I don't know of any building material, including hempcrete, that can solve any of those problems. Those are just market forces. Now, what I will say is that it can solve the problems about health. It can solve the problems about fire prone areas. It can solve the problems about um, the wear and tear on homes. Like a 30-year-old home is often in need of renovation. That problem can be solved to where it's not so much of a we need to cycle out of these homes. We're building things that'll last a little bit more, give a little bit more quality. And what that does, a quality home stitches stability into the financial fabric of that family that occupies that home. And that's a concept that people seldom look at, because as we occupy our homes, if we're going to stay there for 5 years and move out, maybe we're in a transitionary type of scenario where we move with work, or military families can really identify this. They're moving from one town to the other and things like that. But if you're going to buy a home and stay there for 10, 20, 30 years, the quality and the durability of that home is directly tied to your financial stability. Because if you're in a home that's, let's say you buy one that's 30 years old already, and then now things start breaking and things aren't maintainable and things need to be redone, well, then now your financial outlook is very different than if it was a quality construction material that would last 50 to 100-year mark before it needed anything. It's kinda like if you bought a car that would last 50,000 miles or 200,000 miles. That's a totally different value of an automobile. There are many advantages, but if we focus on the financial advantage will pull all the other advantages forward. Now, yes, you can have a healthier place for people to work. Yes, you can have less of a fire prone area. Yes, you can have something that will last longer. But let's take all of those off the table for right now, and let's just talk about the actual dollars to this. Now, if if you can, and commercial is really unique because the value of the property is directly tied to its performance. And so if your net operating income can be increased, the actual value of the property increases. So, like on your home, for example, if you increase the efficiency, well, now you just have a lower electric bill. The value of the home is still based on comparative measures with other homes that are similar in the area. But if you increase the performance of commercial property, well, now the actual value comes up. Now that's actual dollars in real money. Now, the other thing too is like one of the major components going into new construction is the climate control aspect of it. I was talking with a developer that specializes in storage facilities, climate control storage facilities. And the conversation was this: it's like you can have museum quality storage in a climate controlled aspect where you're having less of a financial demand on your climate control systems. So you can put in smaller systems right out of the gate. That's real money. Then your operating costs are lower, and that's where the real juice for the squeeze comes in. Whether you're going to hold that as a long-term property or whether you're going to sell it or both. Those are significant revenue sources, either on the value at a sale or a refinance or on the operating side of it. Those two values are very pronounced. Those will pull all of the other benefits forward: the aesthetic, the fire, the mold, the health, all of those things. Those are gravy on the steak. The short answer is yes, and I'll tell you the key component, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we get there. So, yes, that can happen. Yes, these areas can be developed. The main driving force is a large scale industrial consumer of one of these offtakes of the plant other than the herd, other than the woody part of the plant. So that means a textile consumer, that means an automotive manufacturer that will consume the fiber for something like car door panels, uh, a food processing facility that will consume the grain, something like that to take the other part of the plant that will drive the economic engine. That'll be an economic juggernaut for any community that's going to come in, introduce this as a rotation crop, and then introduce a processing facility. That'll create jobs in that town. Now, what that'll also do is that'll create a mountain of building materials. And then, so then now you've got something that's profitable just at the start, and then you can take it and put it into other building materials. And so imagine if, um, I'll go back and use an example like, out in the prairie days when they would build a sod house. Well, it's not the best thing to build a house with, but it's all you had. And if you could magically have a forest on the prairie in where you could build with hempcrete instead of a sod house, and all it would take is 120 days to grow the crop, well, now you've got something. And so that's not as big of an advantage with modern day transportation, with rail and trucking and shipping. The logistics side of things is so incredibly efficient that even something that's produced in the Midwest and shipped to the East Coast, West Coast, even if it's produced in other countries like France, we're importing a lot from France, and it's still doable because shipping is so insanely efficient, even environmentally efficient. A modern day shipping company uh, is very low on the consumption side of natural resources to get something across the pond. Now, even more so if we're growing it locally. That's where you really get that hyper intensive focus. But the economic juggernaut is going to be delivered by the other parts of the plant, like the fiber, the grain, those types of off takes. And that'll be large scale off takes that can really provide financial growth to these local rural communities. And then everything is just layers on the cake at that point. But that's how that really happens. And so that there's a few puzzle pieces that need to that need to come together. One is it all starts with the large scale offtake, and then you think backwards from there all the way to the genetics and the soil. And so there's a large variety of genetics. They're specialized for fiber, they're specialized for grain. It's kind of like if we were growing tomatoes and you had a hamburger stand and I came to you with cherry tomatoes. I wouldn't do much business with you. And so if you're a textile company and I bring something that produces a large grain seed, we're not going to do much business. But if you make breakfast cereal and I have that grain seed that's really large, well, now we're going to do a lot of business. So the genetics has to be there, and then the processing. Now there's a variety of processing. Are you processing for grain? Are you processing for fiber? Are you processing for short fiber? All of the equipment and the specialization that goes along with it is highly specialized. There are going to be many winners. And so, what we need to do is settle back and realize that this doesn't need to be a cloak and dagger pursuit of industrial technology. We're at the shore of the ocean, and many of us are scrapping over cups of water. This is an ocean of opportunity, and we
Well,
need to settle in and go for the big opportunities. And there's going to be some big winners, and there's going to be large scale processing, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for small on farm scale processing, but they're going to be winners in both categories. And so we just need to specialize, and that market will drive everything as we think backwards from the market. Yeah, Matt, Cameron, and Danny came together, and then that material came in from France. That binder came in from France, and like I said, the environmental impact of shipping something cross continent is not a high impact. Now, it's an unfortunate thing to have all that financial benefit be out of that quote unquote neighborhood, but that's what early adoption looks like. So you adopt it early, and then you import it, you perfect it, and then you build markets, and then you grow it locally, and then you create advantages that outweigh the logistics. And so that's where we are right now, is that early adoption phase. And it the thing to know, and for everybody to know, that even at the early adoption phase, even importing as we bring in domestic growers and processors, and they're taking place. You can buy from a domestic grower or you can import right now. There's options. And so the logistical demands are being addressed with the efficiencies of being local. And then now that competing factor creates a win for us in the marketplace because this will commoditize. And so it's not a specialty thing, it's a commodity crop, just like corn, soy, wheat, all of those things, where we can know that if we put together systems to build homes and to build commercial properties, that it's not such a specialized niche that the commodity isn't going to get there. The commodity's going to get there. It is a gettable get, and it is something that is coming on large, and it's something to where opportunities need to be pursued by the entrepreneurial energy that America brings to just about everything that we look at. And then we're going to create winners. And then that's something that's exciting as an entrepreneur to see the all you can eat buffet that is in front of us, to where we can go in, create niches within niches, and just do a lot of good. And the really exciting thing to that is that entrepreneurial energy will not only create jobs and financial benefit, but it, in addition to that economic juggernaut, it's also an ecological juggernaut, because from the soil stewardship of growing this in a rotation, to the carbon sequestering activities of it, to the lower energy consumption once the property is built, it checks all of the check boxes. It is a nice trifecta on everything that we're trying to accomplish. And so now it's just a matter of letting people know about it, so we can get to work.
can you
It starts with demonstration and education. It takes putting your hands on it and realizing it, and letting the light bulbs go off in everyone's head uniquely to their own point of view. For example, if I'm going to sit down and talk to you and you're an architect, you're going to want to know how you design with it, how you transition windows with it, how you can curve walls with it, how you can do all this. If you're in the design phase and you engineer the load of HVAC systems, and all you care about is the efficiency and the outputs of it, that's a whole different conversation. And so each of those conversations has its own data sets, has its own necessity for demonstration. And then that's where the trade association is coming in and helping connect university research, industry operators, and actual entrepreneurial energy to where they're wanting to have that capitalized into a market scenario. And then those forces of nature are coming together. And then we're working closely with other associations like the ASTM, to where standards can be established. We can all have a language that we speak as this product is being commoditized to where we can now all use it. So that's what the trade association is doing, is being a hub of conversation to where those forces in the market can come together and have a touchstone to where it and the conversations can actually take place at that table, to where when we leave the table and go out and do our own thing, now we're each equipped and well informed, and then we just come back together routinely and advance the market.